Hello everyone, it's me, Nick Mason. I'm here to tell you that this is the introduction to our review that we did on the Weekly Planet for Jupiter's Legacy. There'll be some spoilers and there'll be time codes below, but also in the video, I think we say spoilers. Apologies for the lack of very rapidly moving images. Got some other stuff in the works at the moment that I'm trying to focus on, so this manages to keep things brief. Anyways, leave a like if you want, and go back and watch the Saw Caravan of Garbage videos because they're getting bloody suppressed by YouTube. That's right, I'm one of those YouTubers that are like, YouTube is suppressing my videos! They're trying to stop the truth! The public needs to see my Saw videos! That's who I am. I'm that guy now. I'm Nick Mason, and I'll see you guys at a different time. Is it time to talk about the thing that we watched this week, though? Jupiter Ascending. This is the first Millerworld production at Netflix.
Yes.
Because...
James, were you doing a joke or not a joke there?
What did I say?
You said Jupiter Ascending.
Jupiter's Ascending.
Nope.
Jupiter is Legacy. I've actually written Jupiter's Ascending here.
That's incorrect what you've said there.
That's a different movie.
See, what I initially assumed there is you were going to do one of your classic fake outs where you're going to read the summary of the movie Jupiter Ascending with Channing Tatum or whoever is
Mila
in that.
Kunis.
And Mila Kunis. And then
Edward Redmayne.
And then I was going to be like, James, but then it turned out
I wasn't doing
you're operating at 40%.
all the time, every time. Apologies. I could have led that into a great joke, but I didn't, did I?
No.
So... Here's
the thing. If you call it Jupiter Ascending again, I'll just let it go.
Yeah, and I will.
Yeah.
And I definitely will. So it's the first Millerworld production because they got purchased by Netflix.
Netflix, yeah.
So, he's worked on previously Kick-Ass, Kingsman.
For people who don't, Mark Miller, he wrote, he's written a bunch of comic books that have been adapted to movies with more or less accuracy and quality.
Yes.
Like it's wildly varying. Like some are quite similar. Like Kick-Ass is very similar. Wanted, almost no correlation at all. Kingsman pretty close.
Yep.
But it's kind of more sci-fi in the movies.
Yep.
Millerworld has kind of switched from being a guy who creates comics and then they get adapted to movies and TV shows.
Yep.
And he's more like a guy who comes up with TV and movie concepts and then he's allowed to do a comic book if he wants.
Exactly.
But he's got a bunch of stuff sort of still in the tank that are going to be turned into things.
So many.
And this is...
so many things down the line. Yeah, so what did you think about this? Or what did you think the story was?
No! Okay, so...
It's on Netflix as well if you haven't seen it. We're going to do non-spoilers and then some spoilers.
Yeah. And I think probably we might spoil a little bit of the comic book in spoilers, maybe.
Yes. Also, I don't know anybody's name in this.
Okay, that's quite all right. We can refer to them as the actors' names,
or Kano.
The colours of their costumes, Kano.
Yeah.
So basically, the premise is the very short version is that in the 1930s, a group of 6 people are drawn to a mysterious island, and then they return from that island after some mysterious circumstances. They return with superpowers. They become the world's first 6 superheroes.
Yeah.
And then in the modern era, they've been doing superhero stuff for decades.
They've all
got
grown
kids
their
now.
hair out.
The world has changed, and how they deal with that.
Badly.
And it's interesting because in the comic book, the moments on the island are very brief. Like that. I don't know.
There is a comic dedicated to it, but I started it and went, I'm not really into this.
Jupiter's Circle?
Yep, or Ascending. And Jupiter's Kano. But yeah, so that was the part of the narrative that I wasn't really that familiar with.
Yeah, so the comic book basically starts with a couple of pages where the characters are like, "Boy, it's the 1930s, and you've had this dream. You want to go to an island, and I think you're off your rocker, but I'm going to ballywell join you." They're not British, but they're like, "We're going to go to the island," and they go to the island, and it just cuts to the modern day, and they're superheroes basically. And then in like Jupiter's Circle, there's a few more pages of that.
Yeah,
but it's like 5% of the narrative. Yeah, and this. The journey to the island and the reasons for them going to the island and everything that happened before the island, that's half this series. This series alternates between the modern day and the 30s, and pretty interesting.
Initially for me with the 30s stuff, I was like, I wish there was kind of less of this.
Okay.
Or they did one episode of it.
Right.
Just took one of these 8 and went, we'll just do the island stuff.
Yeah, right.
But then by the end, I think that was the storyline that I actually preferred of the two.
Yeah, right.
Because the other storyline kind of didn't get to where the comic immediately goes to.
Almost immediately, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, this is I think maybe we've mentioned this in the past. I think that one of the reasons that Mark Miller does get to make so much stuff in Hollywood is he seems to be not precious at all about what it's turned into.
Yeah.
Like the idea of Wanted was about supervillains, and in the movie it's just about like assassins
And the loom.
and
that tells them who they're
a-
going to shoot.
a loom of destiny.
Yeah.
Like it seems people are just like, yeah, he just, he licensed it out and let people do what he wants.
Yeah.
And changes have been made in this, like some in small ways, some in big ways. Like there is so much more stuff in the past.
Yes.
But yeah, this is the characters have spent their lives living their superhero lives anyway, living by a code that Sheldon, who's played by Josh Duhamel, sort of has set up. It's like we don't kill, we don't interfere with world affairs, we don't do all this. We just save lives and stop crime and do good.
We kiss each other.
And that's one of the reasons. They've sort of, I think, kind of cannily been like, okay, why is it that this world isn't completely different from our world?
Yeah.
And they've gone, okay, well, it's because they've decided not to intervene in anything.
Yeah.
They didn't intervene in World War II. They didn't intervene in the Vietnam War or Iraq or
Well, they
anything like that.
somewhat intervene in World War II.
Yeah. But they're like, okay, we
just stop trains that are crashing.
We
and
stop trains that are
supervillains.
crashing. We don't do anything like that. And half of the people in this group are like, okay, that's good, and this is how the world should work and how we should operate. But there are other people who are like, we have all these powers. Why don't we change the world?
Yes.
Kind of thing.
And also, it's leaning towards the younger people because they're descendants of superheroes. And when they get the powers from the island, maybe a bunch of people got irradiated to a lesser extent.
It's a good it's never really explained in the comic books or in this. I think it might be a case of this just is a superhero universe in the sense that some people fall into toxic waste, and sometimes there's aliens, and sometimes there's spirits or what have you, and it's all just super science, and it's all just a combination of things. But I think there is a scene. I don't think this is really a spoiler, but I think when they gain their powers on the island, there's a sort of a burst of radiation, and it goes onto the boat.
That's what I
that's out
figured.
That's waiting for them, and you see it sort of irradiate the
because everybody else who's not like the core six or the children of have like lesser powers.
Yes.
And there's some exceptions, like the one supervillain in particular that we'll get to. A lot of the time I was like, I fucking hate Josh Duhamel's hair.
Really?
Just God, cut it. I hate it. Just cut your fucking hair, mate.
What I thought was interesting. What I thought was they're very accurate to the comic.
He
books.
would have looked so slick. Don't you reckon? With a slick grey haircut.
Yeah, that's true.
But I just needed somebody to look to. You know what I mean?
But they're very comic accurate, and especially I like the very dramatic distinction between like the characters as they existed in the 30s, like all clean cut and tweedly little mustaches, and then the modern day they've just like they're old and they've let it all go, which I think is fun.
Or some more than others, but yeah. And it seems like relatively recently as well, because you see Josh Duhamel when his kids are young and he's not quite there. Do you know what I mean? He's kind of on his way there. I did like the superhero suits designs. They're very like garish and in a good way. I think I saw that somebody who designed shoes for Nike or something worked on these or something, and you can definitely see that in a lot of the costumes. Because I think they're pretty terrific. It's pretty light on action as well, isn't it? I guess because it's you got to keep your budget.
Well, that's true.
Kind of in check.
How did you feel about the action?
There's a first battle with the pretty big kind of supervillain. And there were shots in that which I really liked. There's like a pretty good like jet boot kind of uppercut. And there's other bits that felt a bit like Power Rangers, but you know what I mean? But I guess it's kind of on par with The Boys or something to that. In that. I think they kind of, especially for the TV series, they want to keep it more kind of golden age classic superhero. Like it's all about a big punch or a heat vision or something like that. Because in the comic books, it's kind of sort of... It's more pretty gory.
Yeah, it's gory, but it's also kind of like their powers are sort of quite vaguely defined to the point where they can just sort of do like they all have core abilities and they all have a special ability, but it also seems like they can kind of do whatever they like they can alter reality and do whatever they need. Like, a character could just suddenly bring lightning bolts down out of the sky or whatever, and it's like, where did can you do that? Do you have telekinesis? What's your deal? Can you read minds, force fields? Can you turn invisible?
One of them got a stick. So I guess they must have slightly different things. They'd have to, right?
They all do, yeah. So they all have, the six all have like core strength, flight, durability, and then they all have like...
One's got laser vision, one's got techno stuff.
Yes.
Techno beats.
Yes, correct.
Just continuous techno beats. Yeah, like mind control and shit like that. But yeah, so what did you think of this in general though? Like, did you like it?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I
thought it was a little stretched, especially early on.
Right, yeah. I feel like maybe the novelty of the constantly going back and forth between time periods wore me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Also because, with I think maybe one exception, everybody on the island in the past is still alive in the present.
Yeah, okay.
So there's really no...
Yeah.
There's for something, and obviously it's more for developing character, so it's not necessarily a flaw, but just the idea that so much of this is devoted to this dangerous, island in the past, what's going on with that, and we all know that they're fine later. Well, then it sort of dissolves this dramatic tension of half the show.
Yeah, that's fair enough. You're right, and there's a few people introduced. I thought the last person to the island was going to be the guy with the tweedly mustache who turns up and does technopath stuff. I liked that guy. He was kind of briefly introduced. It was in the autopsy, and he took apart the device or whatever. I'm like, who's this guy? He looks like a 1930s guy. Nah,
he's just a separate
guy.
Yeah.
Who might have known somebody near that boat or whatever.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I also found it equally...
It was insufferable, I found.
Oh, that's what I liked about it. I'm like, this guy sucks. But and which I also found with the Josh Duhamel's character, I found him really infuriating because he's kind of an idiot. He's kind of the worst. Like a very simple view of things. We'll do spoilers, I guess.
I think we can do a little bit without spoilers.
Sure, okay.
So, but I think he's not dumb. I don't think so. He was the one who developed this code of we don't kill and we don't do this sort of stuff. And, it's a system that he's wearing out because, all these innocent people are dying. And if you just killed one of these villains, it wouldn't, that wouldn't be a problem anymore. But also, he's relied on this so long that he starts out a little more loosey-goosey, but he's kind of like, he's become sort of really ironclad with these rules to the point where he's like...
The opposite of his hair.
Don't swear in my house kind of thing, kind of vibe. He's realised he's kind of hamstrung by this code, but he can't change it now because it's too late.
I thought it was also interesting that his wife, Leslie Bibb, kind of started off as this freewheeling kind of Lois Lane reporter type, but by the end she'd just kind of come fully in line with his core values, and then she's like, what the fuck am I doing? It's like two completely different people when you're cutting back and forth between that character, and I liked that they came around to that.
Yeah.
And she was like, I've just been living by this thing just because you said it, and I don't really believe it anymore in the way that, you do. And also, at his core, he doesn't really believe it. It's kind of proven.
Yeah, he is only. I feel like these aren't spoilers just because they're not punching related.
Let's do spoilers.
I'm going to say best show ever. I had a good time.
I think if you're expecting like The Boys, it's different than that.
Yeah.
It's not really like anything currently. Like it's got shades of a bunch of stuff, but it's not really like. I don't know.
I mean, it is kind of like Invincible.
Yeah.
And I mean, at its, on a reality level, it's a sort of an indie comic that is been turned into a series.
Yeah.
It's superheroes that meet kind of, self-aware real world,
But I feel like if you liked Invincible for the blood and the guts and the self-awareness, this is...
You will not get... No, this is kind of more corny, I think, in a lot of ways, and kind of cheesy, but I think it's good. And it says, I like the idea that it's kind of, it's these very ideal characters sort of butting heads with the real world and real America. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, they mentioned some stuff about Nazis and, being in like literal Nazis in the streets or whatever, which I thought was like, well, it's not bold, but just to like, when you openly kind of acknowledge or mention things like that, people get real uppity and be like, well, actually the real Nazis are, you know what I mean? Yeah. I want to get into it.
Actually, the real Nazis are the ones that are fighting against the Nazis.
Yeah, we'll get messages. But
spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. But yeah, so kind of a lot of this is built around that his son, the Utopian, kills a supervillain who's about to kind of kill everybody.
Yeah, he's about to go nuclear or go antimatter explosion.
And there's kind of there's a discussion, an argument around like whether that was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And this is where I found that Josh Duhamel character interesting, where it's like, to me, that was such a clear cut, that's fine.
And there's even, that's the thing, because there's even a conversation with Sheldon, who is Josh Duhamel's character, as with his therapist, who is a super criminal in jail.
I liked that touch.
Where there's the psychologist is just like, cops can shoot people in self-defense, and soldiers can do it.
Yeah. If
it's a life or death situation, why is it different from you guys? And he's like, well, I'm not. That's not us though. That's we're a completely different class of
which I like. I understand, and I think is a very admirable goal in this fictional scenario.
Yes.
But then in like a scenario like this, again, a fictional scenario,
seemed pretty clear cut, honestly.
And he ended up being a clone and whatever anyway. So, But yeah, I honestly thought, because the bigger twist of this, which we'll talk to, I thought they changed the villain from the comics.
Yeah.
Because they wait till the very end, and the villain who is revealed to be the villain does a lot of non-villainous, confused stuff when nobody's around.
Yeah, I think potentially, and again, this would be my biggest flaw with this, or my biggest criticism with this show, is that I think they maybe had designs on changing it, maybe because Jupiter's Circle and Jupiter's Legacy, it's on a hiatus, but it'll be back like next month.
Yeah,
it's going to be building on the show and maybe some new stuff or whatever.
Sure.
I think maybe they got some notes from Mark Miller about where that's going to go. They thought about changing it, or they were like, well, we should make it different.
Yeah.
But then they didn't. So for people, the biggest in the comic books, the biggest kind of difference of opinion is Sheldon, the utopian who wants to uphold the code and he wants, to not interfere, and then his brother Walter, Brainwave, who has like his thing is he has various telepathic mental powers and etc. He wants to, be more active in changing the world, not only in terms of like war and that sort of stuff, but like economics and feeding the hungry and that's social programs and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, I've got all these ideas.
Yeah.
We should go and
I could just do it.
Yeah.
And,
no one could stop me.
And they hint at that early on in the show because he's like, I think there's an economic crash coming and I'm going to protect the company
in the 30s,
and its workers. And I'm like, oh, they're doing the thing.
Yep.
And then, because he's a guy, he's got all the ideas and he can kind of sort of see the future or thinks he can at the very least.
Yes.
But then they go a completely different direction for a time.
Yes.
But sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, but in the comic books, quite early on, it's kind of it's revealed that there's going to be a coup because Walter is just like, well, we're going to have to kill Sheldon and his wife, and I'm going to get Brandon, his son, on board with me.
Yep.
And then we're gonna do this by force kind of thing, and they do.
Yeah.
And
really early on, and they bring in this like new world order.
Yeah.
And then his daughter goes underground, which
Sheldon's daughter, yeah,
which we will see in subsequent series.
Who was kind of the troubled teen, I guess.
Well, they both kind of are, but he's not in the comic. The son isn't really aspiring to be a superhero. He's just kind
a burnout, like his sister.
He kind of hates his dad.
Yeah,
and and he doesn't like doesn't.
So
want to
I wonder if we're going to get that, or if we're going to get. But so in this, like you were saying, it's revealed. In this, initially we're supposed to believe that the villain behind all of this is Sky Fox, who's one of the original 6. He had a falling out with the other 5. He's disappeared. He became a terrorist of sorts.
He's Matt Lanter, who's Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars.
Oh, the voice of okay,
that's cool, yeah.
We're supposed to figure out because, or we're supposed to believe that it's him, and he's built this sort of dangerous clone, and he's up to all this dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
But then it's revealed at the end. It's Walter. It's the Utopian's brother.
Yes.
And he has built this clone, and he has engineered all this to cause a rift between the family members and cause a rift between the heroes and the public and all this sort of stuff.
He's probably released, like, stepping crime up. It's probably him doing it.
Yeah.
Why things are getting
But as
kind
you
of out of hand.
said, at the scene right at the start where they fight the big villain, whose name I cannot recall for $1 million.
Dr. Atomic Chest.
There we go, yeah. He goes into Dr. Atomic's chest mind and he's like, hey, I'm distracting you in your mind with my mind powers while everybody else beats you up.
Yeah.
But at that point, nobody else can see in his mind.
Yeah.
If he created this guy, what's he doing?
I think he was doing it just in case.
Practice?
I think he was he didn't break character.
Yeah, because,
that's how I took it.
Yeah, because Walter has a daughter who has his powers. She's an assassin. She can also read minds. And later on, it makes sense that he would pretend that that he's not in on it, even though she figures it out. But earlier,
I guess he also thought if because he might not necessarily, that guy might not have been killed. They might have captured him and read his mind, and then they've got that information. That might have been, I just came to that conclusion there.
Yeah.
But it seemed like he would also do it just when he was by himself or whatever. It seemed there were moments when.
Just a bit of practice.
Just a bit of practice, mate.
All right, yeah.
Bit of practice. There was, it was interesting that, is it Sky Fox, the character who splits for them? The guy the Matt Lanter character?
That's Sky Fox, yeah.
Yeah. So he's not, the older version is technically, he's not in this at all. Like he's just an imaginary man.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether he's got him captured somewhere and is using him to create technology and things like that. And
maybe because this brainwave guy whose apparent ability is his mental powers,
Yeah.
he can create a clone.
Yep.
But again, it's I guess maybe it's a case of like, can you just talk to another supervillain and they have
Well, that's what I figured.
abilities, that can do that.
Something to that extent. Yeah, but one of the things that they did change, which I thought was a change for the worse.
Go on.
Was that his son, Skyfox's son, Hutch, has a staff, like a baton.
Yes.
And it's a teleporting stick.
Yes.
And he can go anywhere in the world. In the comic, his father makes that, and it's basically all of his father's powers in a staff. And as long as he's got that, he can use it like as a weapon. He can teleport with it. It does a bunch of different stuff. Where here, it's another guy from the island, but he's got it now, maybe?
No. Or
is that a copy?
You are misremembering. I see what you're saying.
Am I?
Yeah, so in the comic books, so on Blue Bolt, his special ability is he has this staff, and it can enable him to teleport anywhere.
Yeah.
But when Hutch meets his father, he tells Skyfox that actually Blue Bolt's his favorite superhero. So Skyfox builds him a staff that can do everything that Blue Bolt can.
I didn't know that. Okay,
So and he basically says, "I built you this as a kid." And he says, "But I'm giving it to your mother, and when you become old enough, she'll let you have it and you can use it. But it's too dangerous for you right now."
Oh, okay. I did just remember that. Okay, so that still might be the case.
Yeah,
then.
but that is odd that Skyfox could just be like, "I'll just build you that guy's powers." What you want, and he does it out of a flashlight. He's just
exactly.
Like,
he just does it, and it's indestructible, I guess.
Yeah, because he has.
Okay, so that's not really a change then.
No,
it probably won't be.
Although in this version, Hutch, who is again the Skyfox we don't see, his son.
Yeah.
He is a sort of technological genius.
Yes.
In a way, in the comic books, he's just a guy.
Yeah.
So it seems as if even though Hutch didn't gain any of his father's powers, he's gotten something.
Yeah.
He's gotten some, because Skyfox's abilities again are just sort of. He seems to have some sort of ability to build whatever he wants. That's his power. Like he can build a ray gun.
Yeah.
Or like a
like a
hologram.
technopath,
Yeah, he's a
guy.
technopath. Yeah. So it seems like even though maybe Hutch hasn't had any powers, he maybe has some sort of intuitive thing.
That would make sense.
And he seems to be able to at least tinker with the cosmic baton thing.
I liked how there was a magic van.
I like the magic van also, yeah. I like that Australian guy.
It was an Australian
He's
guy.
like, hey, I'm bloody...
What am I doing here?
Yeah.
What am I doing here?
What did I get here?
What am I doing here?
Did I get a temporary visa and skip out on it? Is that how I got here? I don't know.
So Hutch is the son, right? Again, I
Yes.
don't really remember.
Hutch, son, big hair.
Yeah, big hair. Got
Yes.
it. Yeah. So he's also what I liked about him is he's doing kind of petty crime. His father's this world-renowned criminal who may have tried to kidnap the president or something.
Yep.
Or allegedly. In the comic, he turns up again and he's just like, he's not really a bad guy. He just kind of diverted from their way of thinking.
Yeah, he's
I
more
wonder
a
how
hippie.
much-
He's like a superhero
Yeah.
hippie in a way.
And when he turns up, like he's not a bad dad. He's just kind of been in hiding, and because he thought it was for the best kind of thing. So I wonder how in what way they're gonna bring him back in. But I liked how I was gonna say, can't remember.
Well, you think about that, but in the meantime,
Yeah.
I was going to say that in the second series of Jupiter's Circle, there's a time jump. It's like 5 years, even more, maybe 7 years into the future. So Chloe and Hutch have a kid who does have superpowers, who is like super powerful and a super genius. I wonder if they're going to do that.
I would like if they did.
Yeah.
I think they should. That probably won't be until at least season 3.
Yes.
Unless they time jump in 2, but
Unless they cancel it after this.
I don't think they will. I think this seems to be doing
All right, numbers.
good enough.
Okay.
I don't know, but people seem to be liking it.
But
from what
also,
I've
I think
seen.
you could probably squeeze. You could squeeze the remaining storyline, I think, into 2 seasons.
You could do all this in one.
Yeah.
If honestly.
Yeah.
I understand why they didn't, but you definitely could.
There's also kind of, like I mentioned, there's a sort of in-between series called Jupiter's Circle, which is sort of set in the 50s and the 60s.
I don't
which
think
sort
I've
of,
read that one,
so
yeah.
it sort of fills in some of the backstory.
Okay.
But it's probably not necessary.
Yeah.
So,
They'd just have different haircuts or wigs, wouldn't they?
they would have different haircuts and wigs, yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, I think they
groovy bell-bottoms.
I think they're really kind of gearing up for this kind of Ned Stark moment, like from the comics kind of.
Yeah, because they just beat him to death.
Yeah.
They beat Sheldon to death.
Yeah.
And, stab his wife to death.
Yeah, put Trapper in a mind prison, and so she thinks she's fighting, but she's just getting stabbed.
But I also wonder, because again, I am enjoying Josh Duhamel and Leslie Bibb as the sort of this superhero, couple.
Yeah.
Would they kill them in season 2, or is it a case of because again, you can really do anything you want with characters on the printed page, but maybe these two have, 3-season contracts or something like that, so they will have to kind of change it. Or maybe they were just like, here's the story and you get killed in season 2, and they go, okay, well, that's, if that's the story, that's the story. We don't know.
And he could come back for multiple flashbacks and whatever. They wouldn't really
Groovy bell-bottoms.
Groovy bell-bottoms. I think, if I was
it's
making
me, Groovy bell-bottoms.
I think they ended with the son and the father, Brandon and his father, being closer than ever than they were at the start.
So he is going to die.
Well, I thought that was interesting that they went that way and didn't have him further apart, where he wasn't going to, because there's a moment, if you were in spoilers and you're just like, whatever, where there's a supervillain who's going to kill Brandon, and he's like, you need to like laser my neck to kill me, or I'm going to kill this guy.
It's the real atomic heart guy.
You got to break your code, or I'm going to kill him. And you see for a second he goes to do it.
Yes.
Maybe it would have been interesting if he didn't do it.
Yeah.
And that would have driven that wedge kind of between them. But I still thought it was interesting, the fact that he was willing to do it. I thought that was also interesting.
Okay, but here's the thing that I've just thought of. What if they added that at the last minute?
Oh, yeah.
Because you could very easily, every part of that scene could also be him not using his laser vision.
Yeah, totally.
Like not even firing it up, and then he gets rescued by the
and then there's a bit where he's like, thanks, Dad.
Because there is a moment where Sheldon does say to his son, I wouldn't have let you die. And the son's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it could have been just he wasn't going to do it, and they've just been like, "No, we want to add a little bit more hope, so we'll draw the lasers."
It could have been, yeah. That's a good point. What I was going to say about that guy with the staff.
Yes.
Here we go. I've remembered, but I've forgotten for a second. Oh, here we go. So he's doing petty crime stuff, but he could be doing more. Like there's that nuclear mob boss who's like melting people in a toilet cubicle.
Right. Yes.
And he's this
big man.
Yeah, he's this terrifying guy, and he's seemingly scared of this guy. But when he's pushed into a corner, it's just not even. It's not a problem. Like he was never worried about it. He's not really concerned about the wealth, or he's just kind of just doing whatever, because he kills him in an instant by putting the tube in his heart.
Yes.
And he's just like not fussed by it. So I just found it interesting that he could do all these things and be all these things, but he's just kind of feigning ineptness. Just because it's easier, I guess. Yeah.
They did pack in a lot of like superheroes and villains, and
did a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff in there.
There's a magic van in this show.
They're also like 40-minute episodes, not even. So
really true.
Squeezed a lot in there.
Unless you have anything else to say, I've got one question for you.
Okay, go on.
What did you think of those 1920s, 1930s suits?
A period accurate. Yeah.
But beyond that, I saw some good textures.
There was some
thick fabrics.
I do have like the exact sweater one guy has.
Wow.
Like I think they bought it from the same place I bought it from. Look, they're very accurate. I do question whether some of them would be wearing, soft collars in a kind of financial context. They'd be wearing like a stiff celluloid collar.
I thought some of their expedition clothes were a little bit ridiculous.
They were, yes.
So here's a question though. Yes. This is unclothes related, but when they go to the island,
yes.
because I haven't read the prequel comic.
Yep.
Was it this whole test from that a bunch of other people had failed?
It's not really explained. So
that's what. Is it aliens or what is it?
Well, it's definitely aliens.
Yeah,
so I think it might be Jupiter's Legacy 2. So it's the second season, but it's only like a couple of pages. The thing happens where they go through a doorway and they end up in a doorway, but they're in space, that bit.
Yeah.
But it isn't like we have to pass the test and we all have to, believe in ourselves and leave our troubles behind and pack up your troubles in your old kit bag.
Hakuna Matata
and Kumbaya and all that sort of stuff. They just go through a door and then they're in space. And instead of there being like the visions of the people they wish they could see again, and the glowing lights or whatever, there's just aliens there.
Okay.
They're like little grey men, and they're in sort of like white bishop outfits.
Hello.
And they're like hello, and then they're like, hey, we're gonna give you superpowers. And it's never, they don't really say why.
Yeah.
It's really up to the heroes themselves to interpret why it is. But in the second season where we see Chloe and Hutch's son, who's super smart, he has a conversation with Skyfox when they meet again, and they're like, what? They have a conversation about why they think it happened, and they sort of both seem to come to the conclusion that the aliens want to enhance humanity, see if humanity can breed with the aliens and make some sort of super race.
Right. Okay.
Like maybe that's the working theory.
Sure.
Although it hasn't happened yet. Although maybe it'll happen in the new series.
Your Jupiter stuff.
Yes. More Jupiters.
Double dupe. Cool. Anyway, no, I liked it. And more.
I would like to see other people's opinions of it. I imagine, for a variety of reasons, there's probably people hate elements of it, or all
like it wasn't my favorite thing.
Sure,
but it was
okay.
It was pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to it, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think it was definitely.
And I'm going to read the comics again.
Yeah, I think it probably would have benefited maybe 1 week. 1 episode a week.
Okay, sure.
I think I probably would have preferred it like that. Again, I think part of the same, the sameness I felt of like, oh, okay, we're back in the past. Okay, we're back in the modern day and that sort of thing. That felt to me a little bit exhausting, but I think it's probably because I watched 8 in a row.
Yeah.
And if I watched 1 a week, I reckon it'd be like, ooh, they're back in the past. It's very exciting. I've got that jumper.
Absolutely. Can you imagine if the dad from that 70s show was the one who got the superpowers? My goodness.
Right.
Red,
that's right.
And the
Clarence
man
Boddicker from RoboCop.
Yeah, I was going to say Red Foreman. I was going to call him Red Fox, but it's Red Foreman, isn't it? There you go. Speaking of, Mila Kunis was also in Jupiter's Ascending Legacy.
True, yeah.
Ascending. We're going up.
I create life!
Wow. Eddie Redmayne screaming at us. The movie. All right. Like Mason said, love to hear your thoughts. But let's go do a different segment of the show, Mason.
Oh, what we're reading.
But what is it?
It's what we're reading.
I can never remember what it is.
What we're reading.
Yeah.
What are we going to read?
All right, I'll put in the theme song.
Good.
You just got to keep it down, all right?
Okay.